Get out right out of your bed, that's your quicksand. Getting rid anxiety and head, you can fix it. Rid of stigmas, all of them you said, we ain't listening. Just remember, try to do your best, you can win this. Maurice Benard, State of Mind.
So here we are, State of Mind. Another Sunday. Thank you for my little thing there, YouTube. You guys are the best. The reason I'm wearing this jacket is because I want to look as tough as I can. And you'll know why when you see who's in front of me. So I wore this kind of fake leather. I don't know if it's fake leather, but it's not real leather because I bought it at Marshall's. So who I have today is I saw him at a premiere for Hidden Truth, a short film. And I'm just going to tell you what I thought of him. He's like in UFC, like icon, right? That's fine. He was very sweet to me. And when he spoke, I was so impressed with how he spoke. Like, so relaxed, just so well-spoken. I don't know what we think fighters have to be or need to be or whatever it is, but he's not like that. And that I just was impressed. Okay, anyway, let me give you some. He's the first to hold the UFC middleweight championship. Defended it 4 times. Undefeated, as he defended, right? Pound for pound, the best UFC fighter in the world at one point. Son of a bitch. His name is Frank Shamrock. How you doing?
I'm doing good, brother. Doing super good.
What's happening?
I'm just
What'd you do today? I want to know what you did today.
Today?
Yeah.
I just left training my daughter in boxing, and just in the greatest hour and a half of my Saturday.
Wow.
Yeah. She's 15. She'll be 15 in a couple.
Why
months.
does she want to box?
She's going through boys and girls,
and she wants to take care of her.
She's also going through emotions, and so I remember telling her years ago, it really helped me deal with my emotions, and so she's kind of tied the two into this. Hey, it's great self-defense, it's great protection, and I got some extra emotions I'd like to deal with.
And how many kids do you have?
Two, but they're 20 years apart, and my son just had our first grandchild, puppy.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah, I'm a grandfather.
How old?
She's now 7 months. Yeah.
How's that?
So cute. It's the greatest thing.
Best.
All the love and joy and all that with no responsibility. Yeah, you just give them right back.
That's what I say. Because I have 2 grandchildren and one on the way.
So
and they just love their granddaddy, and they call me Hapa, and then when you get tired, it's like, okay.
Hand them off. It's like a rent-a-baby. You're like, oh, man, there we go. You just give it back. This one's expiring.
I love it.
So good.
So what I want to do, Frank, with you is I want to take part 1 and part 2. And part 1 is your life. And part 2 is your fighting life. And I want you I want to know about because I did research on you. Damn. You got did you write a book?
I did, yeah.
Of course, because I was going to say, if you didn't, you should have. So how was your childhood when you growing up as a kid? How many brothers? You have one brother?
Yeah, I had one brother who I grew up with, and I have 2 sisters now, older and younger. I grew up in, I was born here in LA, but I grew up in Central California, Redding, Anderson, California. And I grew up with my family until I was 11. And then I left my home. I was taken from the state, taken by the state, and I became a ward of the state. And so I never knew my dad.
Foster child.
I was taken by the state because unbeknownst to me, it wasn't normal that I was being locked in closets and had all these like other, disciplines and stuff that were happening to me, which were probably part of the things that were causing all of these emotional issues. And so I was always seeing some psychiatrist. I was always in some sort of social trouble. And then eventually they just took me. They took me out. When I was 10, I threw rocks at a train in California, which is a felony. So when I was 11.
But what's the big deal throwing rocks in a train?
Well, the guy explained it to me. He says, the rock's going 20, train's going 50, hits the conductor going 70.
I get you.
And so it happened too many times, so they made it a felony. I was a 10-year-old kid throwing rocks, and they came and scooped me up. Went to juvenile hall when I was 11 years old for 10 days. And it was the first time I left my home, first time I ever was in a environment other than my home life. And I was like, checking out, talking to everybody, asking them, how do you deal with this? And the beatings and the spanking, how do you deal with this stuff? And they're like, what are you talking about? And, so,
And you weren't tough then, a tough kid?
No. I was a traumatized kid. Yeah, I was I was an abused person. So I was always, I was quick to tears. I didn't have any emotional stability or ability to interact with things. Yeah. I'd go out for sports and everyone wanted me on their team until, day 3. And then I couldn't figure things out and have an emotional breakdown because there was all kinds of emotional stuff that happened to me that I didn't even know about. And they were fueling my, issues. I didn't know. I was a young kid. I'm just trying to survive.
Yeah.
But I was always seeing some psychiatrist. I was always seeing some doctor. And so, it turns out, this is the 80s. No one knew. We didn't know about child abuse. We didn't know what was going on. We didn't know how to talk about it. We didn't know it. It's like mental health back then. People weren't even there.
Nothing.
And so, I told people, and they're like, well, you better follow the rules. And I'm like, so it's just a different time period. And when I got to juvenile hall and I, told them my story, and they said, well, if you keep doing that, they will take you from your home. And that's what I heard. Yeah. So I was like, crime's the way. Crime's the ticket.
Yes. Now, but do you think that taking you out of your home, you were better off?
Yeah. I think it's the best thing.
Oh, because a lot of people say the opposite.
Best thing, because my other siblings stayed in an environment that was super unhealthy. And I can say I'm not the healthiest person in the world, and but just the healing. I for me, the trauma stopped at one point, and I went elsewhere. For them, it kept going.
But when you're in a foster home, how do they treat you? They
were lovely. It was the 80s, and everybody was religious. So it was one home to the next, and they were Christian Science and Catholic, and I went to all these different. I loved it. I thought it was wonderful. I've never done anything in my life.
That's amazing.
So I was traveling the state, committing crimes, going to homes, and when things got bad, I didn't like it, or I got uncomfortable, or something happened, and it made me feel emotionally unsafe. I'd go, what's the solution? Commit a crime. They'll take me. Send me to the next place, and we just keep doing the thing. And that went on until I didn't realize there was a clock counting of you can't just keep committing crimes, can't just keep getting in trouble.
Now, crimes as far as shoplifting or
stuff like that, any crime, because as soon as you break the law, you're already in the system. You're a ward of the state. So any law break, it just goes right back to okay, well, hold on, let's reevaluate, let's decide what's going on and what's the punishment, and then next placement. I just get moved around.
A lot of my friends stole. I didn't, because my dad would have beat the hell out of me if I stole. But I did other stuff that wasn't good. But they used to steal not CDs. What did they call them back then? Equalizers. And there was the cassettes and stuff. That's what they stole. That was a big deal.
Yeah. Cigarettes, beer.
So what about school with you?
I was crazy smart, always crazy smart. So I always tried to go to school.
Oh, you were crazy smart.
I was in GATE. I was in all these different programs because when they tested me, they're like, you're crazy smart. And I was like, oh, great. And so they put me in the crazy smart program, but I'd have emotional issues, which would get in the way of doing the test or the thing or the event or the social function.
Now, emotional issues like anxiety or how did it manifest?
It manifested that if I
you see that big word I just used?
Yeah, that was strong.
Thanks.
That was strong. If I found myself under stress or physical fear, then I would melt down, emotionally or physically, or I would get angry. I'd be like, no, this, we got to fight. And so it came because I was subjected to years of abuse as a child, as a baby, all the way growing up, and I never knew any of this. I just knew, don't grab me like that, and that makes me feel weird. And I don't know what to do in this situation, so I'm uncomfortable. And I didn't have the tools to express all that. I was a child, but I'd had trauma happen to me. So I had emotions that would go above any ability to, connect and communicate.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure things had happened to me that did that. And so, I would just be traumatized. And I felt, God bless my teachers, because I'm sure they were saints, because I was just this messed up kid, but I was smart. I knew all the answers. I read all the books. You gave me a book to read, I read it cover to cover. The next day I came back, teacher.
Damn.
Frank, shut up. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't. Because my world had gotten smashed so small, and I was so afraid, and I just got, small. I lived in books. I was like a nerdy kind of, book kid. Yeah, I lived in fear my whole childhood.
But it's amazing. I will get into it later, but I'm just amazed right now how you became a fighter.
Yeah, well, I did.
I mean, we'll get into it, but
yeah.
from what we're talking about, I'm like going, what the? I mean, I was also abused, and I know a lot of things stem from that, and other things. But I wasn't smart. I was street smart, but or maybe I was lazy. An acting coach once said I was ignorantly arrogant.
That's a good one.
Ignorantly arrogant. What the?
Oh, that's awesome. Wow,
right.
There's so much in there.
But at least you were smart, man. That's that.
But I don't know. I was book smart.
Yeah.
I read books.
Yeah.
So I knew, I could tell you about Africa, and I could tell you all kinds of stuff about the universe and whatever. But
wow.
I didn't know really what was going on in the streets. I didn't, I got my education by living on the streets and hanging out.
Yeah.
It's slow to come that way, So
yeah.
Yeah.
So then you graduated from high school.
Yes, I kept getting in trouble basically until I was 17 years old, and then when I was 17 years old, I got married.
Oh.
I was at a boys' ranch, I was, off in the middle of nowhere, last stop before prisons, and my high school sweetheart got pregnant, and so I married her.
Okay.
And I didn't know, but the minute I married her, I legally became an emancipated minor and legally an adult. So all my childhood stuff went away. I was no longer in parole or a ward of the state or anything. I was free. I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic.
I didn't know that.
It's a weird mechanic. You get married, and we had permission to do so. I was suddenly an adult overnight. So they're like, nope, we don't need you, and you go on your way. So next thing I know, I'm going to high school with my wife, with my son, and I'm trying to live a normal life. And it was too much. I couldn't, I didn't have the emotional capacity to deal with that type of stuff, even though that's the thing I wanted most, a family and a, community and to fit in. And I couldn't make it work. And then her family came and got her eventually. And they're like, your husband's goofy. And once that happened, I just went way over the edge. I was like, what do I do best? Crime and destruction.
But now, Frank,
and now I'm an adult.
you're an adult.
Yeah, bro.
So you can't mess around with juvenile.
I did.
And then you were incarcerated in the early 90s?
Yeah. Yeah, I got 20 felonies when I was 17 and a half years old.
Okay, hold on a second.
20 felony convictions. That time, yeah. So, and then I went to prison. And then really it was in prison where I sat down. It's the first time I've ever sat with myself and went, what is going on? Where?
You were in, okay, Frank, let me explain to my audience because they don't understand this, man. I'm fascinated because I love this stuff.
Yeah.
Folsom State Prison is no joke, right?
Back in the day, yeah.
Yeah.
When I was there.
Maybe not now.
It was getting.
Okay,
yeah.
but you spent, I want to get into this, 3 years in Folsom.
No, I started in Corcoran.
Oh, another one.
Maximum security.
Oh.
Yeah, Charles Manson was on the yard next to me.
You know what?
Maximum security prison. Yeah.
Let me tell you a story about my psychiatrist who I hadn't seen in 37 years. And we hung out one night and it was incredible. But he told me Charles Manson, he was, helping people in the prison. And Charles Manson came in to talk to all these doctors and psychiatrists. And he just said Charles Manson he was just trying to charm everybody.
Sure. Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah.
So you were in this prison, and how was that, man? Because I'm claustrophobic.
Yeah, it was hardcore. I'd done juvenile hall and done that stuff, but this first time, like real lockdown, and then it was level 4. Like you're in your cell most of the time. You go to work, or you walk the yard, you go eat, and then you go back, and that's it. And
That's
you
it.
spend your time in
Do
your
you have a
cell.
guy in the cell with you?
Yeah. You have a cellmate.
Was he cool?
Yeah, he's a cool guy. Yeah, I ended up with the others because everything is race segregated. So black, white, Mexican, and then North and South Mexican, and then there's one extra group which is called the others, or the leftovers. And so that was me, because I'm like, I'm brown, but I'm not Mexican.
Right.
So, I'm all messed up. So I ended up with the Native Americans, Chinese, the Hawaiians, the other group, and I ended up hanging out with them.
But now at this time, you can fight.
Nope.
No.
No, I'm just a street criminal. Yeah, just a knucklehead. But I'd already started lifting weights.
Okay.
I'd met Bob Shamrock and his group home, and he'd mentored me, and he gave me some really good dad advice. And I was like, build your body, take care of what's important. He was like the first dad to ever step up. And so even though I messed everything up, went to prison, he still came and visited me. He still communicated, and it was still the same stuff. Build your mind, build your body, stop being a dumbass, and get out and do work. Get your life together. And so when I went to prison, I went there with this mindset. I wasn't just doing time.
So you lifted
I
weights.
went to college. I lifted weights. I did powerlifting. I did everything you could ever imagine to get educated. And I actually started training people in prison at the end of my term. I was running fire crews. I was running 600 convicts in a yard when I was 19 years old, doing conditioning, muscular conditioning, and exercising. And because that's what Bob said. Listen, no, you're look at you. You got this specimen. He's like, build it up, use it. And you're smart, put your mind on it, stop doing stupid shit.
Yeah.
And then, do the good thing.
So you never got in trouble in there? You were never in isolation?
Yeah, oh, yeah, of course.
Hi, what's that? What's isolation like?
I did a few, times in the hole, and it's, you're
dark?
You're in there. No, they keep a light on. The weird thing is there's a light on 24 hours a day. And so it just adjusts the level of the light 24 hours a day. So at 8 a.m. it pops on, it's brighter. 10 p.m. it goes darker, but it's on all the time. It's a weird experience.
I asked a guy who was on State of Mind, he spent 7 years in a Thailand prison for a murder he didn't commit. And he said they would leave the light. I said it was darker. He goes, no, they leave it on because it's worse.
Yeah, it's worse.
And then if you try to sleep, they hit a thing.
Yeah, it tortures your brain. But, the longest I ever did was like 60 days or something. 60
60 days?
60 days, yeah. I got in the fight over a TV one time. And
oh my
I was in minimum security. So in minimum security, you have to share a TV. It's like 18 people in a dorm, one television. So you rotate the nights. Oh, it's black night, it's white night, it's Mexican night, it's this night. So when it's the other night, it's my night to watch TV. I go out to watch TV, and this group of black guys come in. They're like, no, we're going to watch our show tonight. And I go, And in prison, that's your classic punk move. And so if I let them do that to me, not only my group, but every other group will be like, he's a punk. We're all going to take his stuff.
Yeah, of course.
So I have to do something about it, even though I don't want to. I'm just trying to watch TV, man.
Yeah.
So, I ended up fighting these 8 guys and got 60 plus days in the hole.
And this is what I used to get a lot of letters from a lot of people in prison watch General Hospital.
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah.
And they know Sonny.
Yeah. Heck yeah. Well, my in Corcoran, my roommate was an Indian guy, older Indian guy, and he loved Golden Girls. I'd never seen it in my life. And every day I'm watching Golden Girls like once or twice. I'm like, this is not a bad show. But that was like his vibe. Yeah. So it's a show I'd never see, but that was his thing. I watched Golden Girls.
One guy wrote me, and I'm not joking, and he's kind of well known. It's a great story, and we're supposed to have him on GH, but I don't know what happened. But he wrote me asking what Sonny would do in this situation. He was in prison doing something, and I'm like, man. I don't know. So you get out of prison.
Yeah.
Then now you're in great shape.
Yeah.
When did you start? Well, I want to get into You didn't talk to your father or something until he was dead, until he's
Oh,
died?
yeah, my adopted dad, yeah. Well, what happened is once I got out of prison, I was only out for one day. I was out from prison one day. I went right to the martial arts dojo and I started training. And I just never left. Like I was there for 16 years.
Wow.
My whole life, my whole focus. And I became very successful very quickly. And Bob was always my coach, my mentor. Like he was always, he was always my dad. He was always guiding me to it. But
what's going on with your real dad now?
He's still in prison. My dad ended
Oh.
up being I never knew about it, but my dad ended up being a violent sexual predator, doing 14 years in prison. And then he never got out because there was nobody to vouch for him. So he just stayed in the system until he eventually died.
And your mom?
She's still alive. Yeah, she's still alive. She's 65 now.
You're cool with your mom and everything?
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's always mom.
Yeah, mom's mom.
Mom's mom.
So this guy,
Yeah.
Bob,
So Bob really, like I said, gave me the guidance, gave me the thing. And then once I got out, he's like, all right, well, here's the thing. I'll drop you off. Good luck. And I just went all at it. But like I said, once I got really famous, it got weird because my brother was also weirdly, he was also famous. He was my teacher. And he had a certain way. And it wasn't like a good chi way. It was more like this is my way. This is how things work. And if not, we'll just beat you. And so it was this really old culture of martial arts that I didn't really understand because I wasn't a martial artist. And it kind of made me feel uncomfortable. And so I got through all the beatings. I got really, really successful. And there came a point where we were supposed to become equals.
Yeah,
We're both pros and work together and share knowledge and do this thing. And
we all thought you guys were like all tight and everything was great.
Yeah, well, we got to that point and he was unable to do that. He was unable to see a different way and to bring in different ideas. And so my ideas and my position became adversarial instead of hopeful and thought, the new stuff.
Yeah.
And then to make matters worse, I became uber successful doing it my way. And so I skyrocketed. He kind of stayed the same. And then my dad picked a side. And my dad picked his side. And it's like, hey, you got to do what Ken wants or you're not my son anymore. I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, no, this is our family. He's my son and you have to follow him and make it right or you can't be in the family. And I go, Bob, that's not what you taught me in the beginning. Like, that's not, it broke my heart. And so I left.
What was that conversation like? You guys into his house or where were you?
What happened? I went to his house because I asked him about it because I was really hurting about it and I didn't know what to do. And I asked him, what do I do? What do I do? Because I just wanted it to be right. And it broke my heart. He said, you have to do it Ken's way. I love Ken. You have to do it Ken's way. If you do it Ken's way, you're in the family. I go, oh, okay. And I just was like, and it was so disconnected.
Was the energy? It must have been really. The energy was.
I couldn't handle. Like I didn't know what to do, so I just went, oh, okay, and then I left because like, what do you do? And I know from his standpoint, he was just a hurting man, and his kids were having trouble, and he thought he was going to step in and do the right thing.
But why not try to fix it instead of saying my way or the highway?
My way or the highway. So I went, oh well,
take the highway.
I take the highway.
Right.
I took his knowledge, took his lessons, and I took, what he really gave me, which was true love. But I was like, bro, that's not love. Like I can't deal with that. And so and then
Well, why did he pick that son and not you to tell? Why didn't he say to him, you do it Frank's way, or
he was the first son. He was the first love.
I get you.
Yeah.
Wow.
You can't. I can't fault him. It is what it is. But at the time, it was like, oh my God, my dad, who I believed in, who I did all these like fought in a cage, like and then all of a sudden he's like, boom, that's how it is, and it made no sense. And only years later did I realize he was just so hurting, and like I was, and didn't have the ability to express those emotions. He had the same. And instead of going, hey, man, listen, guys, instead of digging in there deep, he went, hey, and we all regretted it. But that's
so take me to the conversation that you had with him the day that he passed away, or did you?
Well, I knew he was passing.
Well, what did he have?
And it just his heart gave out. He really didn't care for himself once he lost his wife. He was very religious, took one wife, high school sweetheart. They married. They started the ranch. They brought the boys. They did the whole thing, and then she, boned out at one moment and left him, and it just broke his heart. And so it just changed how I think he felt about things and relationships with people. And one of the things that gave him joy was his sons, because he was able to pick the sons he couldn't have. A big, strong, genetic, burly, sensitive. Like Ken and I are very opposite in our personalities. So, when he needed a strong, burly guy like Ken was there.
Yeah.
When he needed a more sensitive, emotional, intellectual guy, I was there. And we became his sons in that way. But I think it was a very deep, intimate love that was hard to balance. I mean, he didn't take another woman, ever. We were his family. We were the children.
Wow.
It's pretty heavy, yeah.
Now, it's amazing. I'm still always amazed that you're a fighter.
Me too.
Because your sensitivity is...
Me too.
Your sensitivity... I'm very sensitive.
Yeah.
But I don't kick people's ass for a living. Okay? You're sensitive. You're very smart. But talking to you right now, and that you could get in the ring and do what you did is beyond me.
Yeah.
I mean, your brother...
Training.
I know I know the training.
Yeah.
That's
mental training, physical training,
yes,
psychological, spiritual training. I was ready to die. Nobody else was ready to die, bro. Because I looked them in their eye and I pushed them to the limit, and they all went, nope, God, Mom, please stop. And I was like, okay. But I went there, and it's like when you meet a great actor and they're all in, and you can't stop it. You can't stop it, or you're gonna die. And so nobody wanted to go on that journey with me. But that's how I grew up. So
you were 7th degree black belt.
Technically.
Whatever. That's the research I did.
Technically.
Okay.
We're gonna be honest with you.
Yeah.
Never earned one belt ever in my life. I only got so good at everything that they were just like, bro, we got to give you something. All the belts that I did earn were championship belts.
Wow.
So yeah, I'm the opposite of a martial artist. I'm a full martial artist, but I'm accidental.
Yeah.
I didn't.
So what did you study? What kind of, is it jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, I started in a grappling-based system, which was called generically submission wrestling, which is basically grappling for holds to finish somebody off. And then I studied Muay Thai after that. And then I studied collegiate wrestling, judo, jiu-jitsu, and then I really fell into boxing. I saw where the sport was going, and I saw how much damage you can do to someone's head if you know how to punch them well. And so the last 10 years, I really leaned into the boxing.
So how did you start UFC? I mean, how'd you get into that? I mean, that was the beginning, right?
I was doing well in the Japanese circuit. I started Japan, and I was instantly famous. Like I was moving along quick, and I had a name in Japan.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I was famous in Japan. It's a great story. Famous in Japan.
Yeah, that's a movie title.
Out of nowhere, the UFC comes to Japan. And so there's a moment where, hey, they need a famous guy in Japan to fight the famous U.S. guy who should win because he's an Olympic gold medalist. So I was the guy famous in Japan. And they thought I was going to lose because the other guy was an Olympic gold medalist who was, top of the world. And so I beat him in 14 seconds.
Wait.
Yeah. I set a Guinness World Record. Yeah.
You did?
Yeah. I dreamt the whole thing, had a vision, told my coach. They laughed at me. And I was like, guys, because I was so deep in it. I could see the holes in the martial arts styles and where they didn't connect. And I could see all the mechanics that nobody else could see. I was like a super nerd savant guy.
What did you do to beat him in 14 seconds?
I got him in an arm bar. And at the time, the wrestlers, they put their arms down to hold you, to control you. And so I let him take me and move me into a position where I could break his arm. And then I did. Yeah. But he gave up. His arm was like a butter, like an old lady's arm. It was like nothing. Yeah, it was like pop, 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 pop. I felt bad.
Now, what is the feeling that you get when you're just first walking down to get into the cage and you hear noise, right? How were you in that mentally?
Well, I'm super focused. Like at that time, I'm crazy focused. So I can feel the crowd. I can hear the energies. I can kind of feel what the mood is. And then so I kind of take my, tone.
Gives you energy?
Yeah, I take my tone from there. If it's kind of subdued, then I kind of slow roll it. But if it gets a little more, I kind of move into it. But I can feel the energy. That's how it works.
What are your nerves like?
Oh, they're just out of control. Out of control, yeah.
But isn't that kind of scary?
It's totally scary. No, it's terrifying. I'm terrified.
So I'm going to ask you about what it feels like to get into the ring, Frank, because I'm not going to compare this, but I just did The View, and I had to be I had to be with 5 women, and it's live, and
that sounds like a battle.
It could be tough, right? But they were fantastic. But before I went on, but you got to get out of those negative thoughts. Now I can imagine with you walking in the ring. Oh my goodness, because it's life and death, brother.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
How is it when you kind of go and then right before you open that, or they open the door for you? I don't know who.
Yeah, they open it for you. Usually I turn around and look at kind of the outs. For me, there's like a barrier. And so I do this one, it's like a two-phase. I do one walk, and in it I go, I'm the baddest man on the planet. And I kind of absorb the moment, and then I share how amazing I am.
That's what you got to do, though.
Yeah, that's how I feel inside. And so that's what's coming out of me. And that's what people go, oh, dang, look at this guy.
Yeah.
So that's my process. And then once I turn my back to the cage and I look back at everybody, then I kind of let that stuff go. Because when I turn back around and I step through, then I'm there just to kill people. Wow. Then I just turn my brain. I go, nope, that's because I feel it. I go, okay, here we are. Here's the thing. But yeah, the second I turn back and I kind of do the thing, then I just go wipe it, and then it's all pure, mechanical processes of
when you're eye to eye to the other person. What are you thinking?
I just relax. I just breathe
relax
and relax, and because when you're that fine tuned, your body's going to react.
Yeah.
If anything happen, your body will just move and react, and it just become fluid. If you're really well trained and your mind is right. And so for me, it's more important to have my mind right. I'm a big meditator. I'm a big visualizer.
Yes.
When I'm staring you in the eye, I don't even see you.
Yeah.
You're just, my brain is just process, relax, function. And then nothing happens until I get hit or touched. Like until I feel the range or I hit something. It's like a play, or it's like this feels really dangerous, but not really real. And then it goes, and then you go, oh yeah, it's going down.
Now, have you ever been in there with someone and you said, oh shit, maybe this guy's just hits a little too hard, maybe he's too strong, or those thoughts don't come into your head at all?
Never had them except for when I fought Ensign Inoue in Japan. Just big, burly, half Japanese, half Hawaiian guy. And he was 230 when I fought him. So when he hit me, I was 190. So he was, 25, 30 plus pounds. And he socked me so hard. It's the first time where I was ever like, oh my God, I'm not sure what's really happening. And so I just took him down, grappled. But there was a point when he got on top of me and had me mounted. And literally was elbowing my head in. Oh, and I'm like, man, this is so bad. But it was the very first time and the only time where I ever went, this is it. They're gonna kill me. This is it. And so for 1 second I went, yeah, this is it. And then I went, oh, hell no. I kicked out and ended up knocking him out.
Yes.
But there was one moment, and I never had it again. But that just having that moment and stepping over that was what, let me go undefeated for 10 years and do all those crazy things because I crossed over that line, that imaginary line.
I think it's like 80, 90% mental, isn't it?
Yeah, all of it. Yeah, 90% mental, easy. Yeah. Fighting's not hard.
And how about Tito Ortiz? What's up with that dude? He's just a big baby.
He's one of my close friends.
Oh,
I've
he is?
known him forever, and then we fought. And I told him, I said, Tito, I'm going to whoop your ass. And I told him exactly how I was going to do it. Oh, no, you're not. No, you're not. No, you're not. And then, but like a true martial artist, after I kicked his ass, came and trained with me.
Wow.
Listened and did all the stuff I told him, and he went and didn't lose for 9 years or something like that. He had a great career because he went, here's a lesson.
But Frank, you seem smaller than everybody.
He's mad, bro. He's 6'2", like 230 pounds.
You're small, right?
I'm small. I'm 5'10".
not-
I'm 180. I used to fight at 189, 190. So that was my weight.
So you're like beating these bigger dudes.
Yeah, no, I fought giants, bro. I fought biggest guy I fought was 245 pounds, Kiyoshi Kasaka. But when he hit me, same thing. I mean, the mass is what.
And Nick Diaz, what about that one?
He wasn't that heavy. I think we fought at 178, but he popped me a couple of good times. He's got a good, pop at the end of his punches, and he sets you up like you don't really feel him, and all of a sudden you're, oh wow.
Oh yeah.
Brain hurts
Both brothers.
Bit. Yeah.
There's something because when you watch them, they seem a little sloppy to me.
Yeah.
Like they don't really know how to box that well, but then they're loose maybe. I don't know.
It's a very loose and attrition-based, comfortable striking style, and it's kind of ghetto. So it goes around
and it tricks you, right?
Yeah, it goes around the mechanics. So if things come around, you're not ready. It makes you more nervous, consumes more energy. He was really relaxed. He was popping me, and I was like, I was old at the time, and but still, he totally kicked my ass. He totally whooped me.
Let me tell you something. I've had 2 UFC fighters in here, and they've been the coolest sons of bitches that I've had in here. You guys are the cool, but maybe not all.
Well, there's a thing in martial
I don't know
arts.
what it is.
People that know how to fight don't usually fight. People that know how to hurt people, they don't go around hurting people. They usually try to do the opposite because you have this really valuable, important knowledge, and most good people go, yeah, should do something of value with that.
Yeah, but it's amazing that I've laughed more with UFC fighters in here than anybody else. It's just it's amazing. All right, listen. Let's see what else I can. Okay, I got it all. I got everything that I needed to get from Frank Shamrock. But I want to talk about just one last thing, just to pat myself on the back with. You said your ex-wives or wives or I don't know what watch General Hospital. Let's talk about that.
So okay, I gotta go through this. So my first wife, I got 3 wives.
Okay.
3 ex-wives.
Okay.
First wife, I married in high school, and she used to watch. It's been 30 years. She used to watch your show, so I knew about you vaguely from the first wife. Oh, so here you go, he's doing something. You're always getting in trouble. You're always doing something jacked up. You're always the bad guy.
Right.
And so they'd always be like, oh, he's a bad guy. And they'd be like, oh, yeah, that's kind of cool. So I knew of your existence in the universe. Fast forward, my second wife, Amy, third wife, Amy, lovely woman, loved her soap operas.
Okay.
And so I'd hear your voice, and you'd be hanging out in my bedroom. I'm like, bro, and I'd be like, hey, what's going on? Oh, and she's like, oh, I just like to hear them talking, and I like to participate and keep up on things. Right. So I was with this woman for 19 years. Wow. So you were in my bedroom for like 19 years with my wife while she was doing her hair. By the way, I got kicked out. She wouldn't let me stay in the room. I had to leave.
That's amazing.
Because she didn't like me stressing her out. So you hanging out with her and me outside. And then when I found out my brother was bipolar, and I started.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, my brother Perry. I went down this journey because I didn't know anything was wrong with me. I felt fine until I'd get into weird social situations. Yeah. People were like, no, that's weird. That's off. And then, so through self-discovery, I found out, man, I got messed up through mental health stuff. So did my brother. Well, he becomes homeless after he leaves the Navy. We spend years trying to get him off the streets. And we finally do. He goes back and forth. And then he finally takes his life in jail after 10 years on the streets. So about 7 years in, I'm learning all about bipolar. Like I'm finally getting knowledge. I'm like, oh, we didn't know what was happening. We didn't know he needed this stuff and this support and these things. We didn't understand. So once I started getting this knowledge, I was like, okay, well, let's give it back to him and let's try to make all this work out. Like, let's try to get Perry out. So that was my journey into it. It was my own brother. And then when he took his life, I was like, oh my God, like this is the most horrible thing ever. But my best friend Mauro, who helped me with broadcasting, he turned out to be bipolar too. So I was like, bro, I just learned all of this stuff.
I saw his
Why don't we just
documentary.
keep helping people? Yeah. Why don't I help you? Why don't we, my brother's gone. But, now I have this knowledge. We know the mistakes we made. We know better stuff. I was like, let's just keep rolling it forward. And so that's how I got really involved in the mental health. And then making that movie, which is really a tool for Mauro to share his story.
Absolutely.
And to share how you care. We didn't know how to care for my brother. We didn't, in truth.
What
And we did everything.
decade was this?
He died in 2018. Yeah, so just recent.
Oh man.
But we were all, but the family was separated because of all the abuse. We never talked about it. Like, we never communicated because everybody's traumatized from our childhood experience. So we didn't know that each individual was experiencing their own things until much, now we're 50. Everybody's 50. We're like, oh, God,
sure,
here's what's going on. We didn't know that, and my brother was the oldest. So we lost him before we figured stuff out. Now we got to figure it out, and we go out and, but I've known your name, I've known your position forever, and you are one of the first guys ever to step forward and say, hey, man, this is really important, and this is what's going on with me, and there's value in sharing this, and for that, bro, you have my fucking greatest respect ever. Oh, man, because making that film, we got tens of thousands of emails from people who just said, bro, I was in my closet, gonna take my own life, and someone said, go watch this. And he's like, and now I'm going to do this and this and this and this. But for many of them, they just need hope and to know that someone else is suffering or someone else has made it through it or someone else is similar to them. And I know when you're where I was when I was a kid, I felt so alone and I felt so scared and I felt so, in danger. And that's what it feels like to be mentally ill right now in society. Yeah. And that's what we got to change. Like, wow. That's why I keep standing up and going, no, wait a minute. Let's talk about this. It's hardcore, but life is hardcore.
All I can say to that is beautifully said. Someone who has been talking about bipolar for over 30 years. Frank is absolutely right, and I'm sorry that he had to go through that with his brother, because with knowledge, with talking like this, there's somebody out there right now who says, you know what, I don't want to live, but if they could do it, I can do it. And that's what this is all about. Frank, you made me laugh, you made me cry. I appreciate it. I don't know. I think I love you, man.
I love you too, brother. It's a great state of mind.
Thank you. On that note, beautiful, brother. Especially the end, what you did there was beautiful.